UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the United Federation of Podcast Network. I'm your host for today, Brandon Shea Mutella, and joining me are my cadets, Justin and Chrissie. Justin, how are you doing? Tell us a little bit of a story of where you came from and who you are.
Well, I'd really like to, but I've got this thing that's called a Melindian stomach worm. I should be okay, but wait, hold on. It's got a message from my doctor saying it needs to gestate for 24 hours. Do you guys know what that means? I'm kind of a little worried about it, and if that'll mean I can do this podcast or not, but...
Well, I need you here because, what do you expect me to podcast with this Michigander here? Come on.
I don't know, but okay, I'm okay right now, but if something happens where I just fall over and stop recording, just keep going. I'll be fine. It just needs to gestate, whatever that means. I'll be fine.
Okay.
Anyway, good to be here otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry to sidetrack it with my little intestinal issues.
Yes. Yeah, and here we go with Chrissie. I just don't like Michiganders, because of all the problems I've had in my past.
I can completely understand that. Although we were once part of Canada, so...
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You would know that more than I would, right?
That was Northwest Territory, or before it was the American Northwest Territory, there was discussion of how it was going to be. And originally the border was supposed to be right across the state, a little bit north of the thumb. Mm-hmm. That was where the Canadian-American border was going to be, so yeah.
You're an almost honorary Canadian.
A lot of people think of Michigan as just Canadians anyway, so... Anyway, but I understand. There's been issues.
Bunch of fellow hosers. Yes. Anywho, we do have a special guest joining us today, and we'll talk about that in a second. Before we jump into our topic, we'd like to just take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons who make our show possible, particularly our associate producers, Justin, Oser, and David Willett. Listeners, we'd love to add your name to this list, and we can do that with your monthly subscription of just $10 per month at patreon.com/UFPEarth. And also, don't forget about the Boldly Go project, celebrating Gene Roddenberry's centennial by sharing what gives you hope for the next century. Go to boldlygo100.org or use the hashtag boldlygo100 to show what makes you optimistic about the future. Now, we do have a special guest that's going to be joining us in a little bit. But right now, we do have a very special guest joining us. UFP patron and man with the sexiest legs this side of Vegas, Thad Hait. How you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good. That's definitely a unique introduction. I don't think I've ever had one quite like that on the podcast before.
So we were going to some kind of dinner at Vegas, I don't know, it was 4 years ago, I guess now.
Okay, yeah.
And we all jumped into a limousine, and honestly, we were so packed into this limousine, Thad's thighs were all over me. And Zach, my co-host...
Are we sure this is a Star Trek podcast at this point?
Zach, when we opened the door to get out, Zach literally fell out of the limo. He was so packed in there. And honestly, God. I'm surprised somebody didn't have the clown music for the clown car queued up for when we got out of there.
That was a comedy of errors that night, because then we got lost trying to find the restaurant, and there were all sorts of problems.
Yeah, we got lost. But I tell you, that was the cheapest limo ride I ever took in Vegas. We had so many people in there. When we divided it up, I'm sure we each paid $3 for that limousine ride. There was so many people in there. So.
It was pretty tight quarters.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. Anyways, and then Thad, you and I, we got to get to know each other a little bit better at the Comic-Con in Albany.
Yeah, which apparently was a total mess behind the scenes.
Yeah, I hear it was, and I don't know if that's coming back or whatnot. But
no,
I think they did
it's
okay
not coming
there.
back.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Yeah, they stole a bunch of money and didn't pay people.
Yeah, no, they didn't
Nice.
pay any of the talent, and the guy who was running it was just using his own personal savings. He didn't make any profit on it and ran out of money. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, things didn't go well, but it was a fun time for us.
It was, yeah.
And you remember that pasta we had, those pumpkin pasta?
That was
we had?
really good.
So
yeah.
good. So good. Oh, man. Anyways, we're not here to talk about food. We're here to talk about Star Trek. So
Reasons to go to
we got
conventions.
no news.
Oh, definitely.
Have these experiences, yeah.
Yes. We got no news this week, but we are going to jump into our discussion on the Star Trek Discovery episode, Season 4, Episode 4, All is Possible. And in this episode, we have 3 different plots going on. So, Thad, as our guest, why don't you tell us a little bit of your initial thoughts and first impressions on the episode?
I really enjoyed it. I think... Yeah, I definitely had a sort of reaction to the discussion of the stomach worm. Like I remember when watching it, I like that was my first reaction to the episode because it's like the first line. And I remember I tweeted it out like my thoughts about that stomach worm are mirrored in Michael Burnham's facial expression when she hears about it. That was a thing. But no, I enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, I'm a parent, so, like, you know, I don't know how many times my kids, you know, have come home with lice from school and whatnot. So, like, I'm used to this kind of thing. So, you know, stomach worms, lice, it's all the same.
Wait, that happens multiple times?
Oh, yeah. I've had lice has happened a couple times at our school, yes, for sure. So,
but I would not say that's the same thing as a stomach bug. Lice are a lot easier to clean up and less disgusting.
I cleaned up a lot of diapers. It's all good.
I suppose.
Wow.
Chrissy, what are your initial thoughts on this episode?
Also disturbed by the concept of a stomach worm that has to be kept for 24 hours. Anyway.
Yeah, why can't they beam it out of his stomach? I mean...
It was fake!
Well,
it was not real. He didn't really have it.
Well, that's a real thing. They reacted like that's a real thing. Just
Guys, there's so much more than those few lines to this episode.
Yes, and I'm going to get to that. Okay, so, but
this whole thing totally raised me over in the episode. Right. I didn't even give it a second thought. Like,
neither did I, actually. But okay. So my thought process there is because this is a really great social commentary episode. You can apply it to Brexit, or you can apply it to just generalized isolationism. But it is definitely a commentary that says communities function better together than separately. And, Star Trek and social commentary can't go wrong.
Yeah, no, I was definitely thinking this was a Vexit episode as we were watching it.
Nice.
Or Nivexit, I guess.
Yeah.
Nivexit.
That sounds
Justin, what are your thoughts?
You know what? I really love this episode. So, like, for the different plot lines, so first of all, there's Culber as the counselor with Book and with Tilly, and I really love that they're taking the time with Book's grief. It's not just like, it's fine, you had that mind meld. It's something, we talked about this last time, but it's something that it's going to come and go. There'll be good days, there'll be bad days. It's going to be with him for a while, and he's still dealing with it. And I also love Culber as counselor. I think he's just really great in that role. I think it's great what he does with Tilly in their session, and just pointing up the importance of mental health. I mean, I think they're dealing with it in a really great way that Star Trek has I think rarely done. So there was that. Then there was the plot line with Navarre and the Federation. I'm always fascinated by politics in Star Trek, and I thought it was really great. And peeling back the layers of what's actually going on, I really loved that part of it. And then, of course, the thing that maybe this episode will be most remembered for in the future is, Tilly leaving the show. Well, we can talk about what that means, leaving as a regular, at least it seems. But there was something about that with her having this kind of straight line to the captain's chair and saying, you know what, is that really what I want to do? Is there something else? I was actually really moved by that, and I got very emotional in that plot line and in different parts of the episode. So I really loved it. I thought it was doing a lot of things that really worked for me on all 3 of those plot lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one again. Like, this is 4 out of 4 for me this season. Really loving it. I thought that the A, B, and C plots all worked wonderfully, and like all could have been A plots in their own episode. Like, so it's like, the way that you guys have talked about it, you're like, it's sounding like you guys think the A plot is the Navarre plot line, but for me, Tilly. I think the Tilly. Okay, yeah, I think the Tilly plot is the A plot of the episode here. So, but I don't know. I thought it was really fantastic here. But However, I'm going to start us off. I know you got kind of an outline here, and I appreciate that you do it here, but I am going to just derail
It's okay.
it right off
We're
the
used to
bat
you
here.
derailing stuff and putting up front the things that don't work for you. It's fine.
No, I'm actually not
Oh,
putting
okay.
nothing. Nothing doesn't work here. I want to talk about the Navarre plotline first, because I think that this has the most meat on the bones for this one here. And the first thing that really surprised me on this one here was like how Trek this felt. Like when Saru and Burnham were sitting there talking, you know, it really felt like something that we would have got on TNG or even the original series between Kirk and Spock. And the way that Michael and Saru went down on this mission and kind of did their own thing, like it really felt true to me. It felt really well written and really, really well plotted out and whatnot, and it worked in the episode for me. So, Thad, what are your thoughts on this plot line here and Michael and Saru being called in on this mission?
I really enjoyed it. It definitely seemed, yes. I love when Star Trek goes political. I would absolutely watch a series about the Starfleet Diplomatic Corps. I think that would be amazing. And yeah, no, I enjoyed this. I liked the dynamic there with Saru and the Navarre president and Michael and the Federation president, and I thought they did a really good job of making this look like something that, like, because we could absolutely believe this is the sort of thing that happens in diplomatic negotiations in a real world, and it just it worked really well, I thought.
Chrissie?
Yeah, that is there's shades of, you know, what it made me think of was FDR. Okay, Franklin Roosevelt during the Depression. And he has people coming to him saying, you need to do this for the social issues. You need to do this for economic issues, this, that, and the other. And he would say, I love that idea. Make me do it. Which means, you know, present it publicly, get people interested in it, and give him a reason to support it without having just said it outright himself. Because the reaction is different. You know, if people are thinking it's coming from the grassroots, as it were, then it's reacted to very differently than a president just saying, hey, we should do this thing.
Yeah.
Justin?
Yeah, I really love what was going on here, and especially kind of the way that it's set up and how it goes through the episode. Because at first it's like, okay, there's these negotiations, they're coming close to an agreement to bring Navarre back into the Federation. Okay, Burnham, Saru, you just need to be there for the formalities. And, you know, all of a sudden there's this, you know, last second thing, like we need to have this exit clause. And you know, I think Burnham and Saru figure out, like, okay, there's something more that's going on here. I'm getting like subtle indications that they want us to do something. And I really love that, you know, they propose this compromise and that in the end, this was all set up by both of the presidents, right? Like, I love that Tarina, like, gave Rilek the heads up and was like, hey, this is coming, we need to do something about it. And they found a way to do it. Kind of like what you were talking about, Chrissie, like they were laying the roots for, this is coming from somewhere else. This isn't me bending. This is somebody else coming up with something. I'm listening to it and seeing if it might work. So I really love this part of the plot. I felt that I saw a review that commented on this, but it felt a little bit like what happened in Deep Space Nine sometimes. Like, you'd see something and it would seem like something on the surface, but there are other layers going on that you find out about later, and you're like, aha, that makes sense. So I really loved how they did that, because at first I was like, I'm not quite sure where this is going, but yeah, I just love it. Kind of subverted my expectations for what was going on.
See, the thing that I'm interested about in this plot line here is discussing this unconditional withdrawal clause that they wanted to put in here. So, like, the president says the Federation would never force any world to remain a member, and Navarre is proof of that, because Navarre had left once before. They'd left the Federation once before. Now that they're coming back, she says, however, an unconditional withdrawal is not acceptable. That would give Navarre all the benefits of Federation membership when the Federation would have all the risks associated with his exit. Okay, so I'm trying to understand this here. If they can leave at any time anyways, then I don't understand, first of all, the need for an unconditional withdrawal, also, I wouldn't understand the problem with an unconditional resolve. Like, I guess I don't know historically, Chrissie, can you think of anything where what this is? Because if they're like, we can leave anytime you want and we would never stop you, well, then what's the difference?
It's renegotiating things. Go ahead, Justin. Yeah.
Oh, no, like I was thinking, I think there is a bit of a difference. So I think Navarre was able to leave with the Federation Council's approval of that. It wasn't just like, hey guys, see you later, bye, right? Like there needs to be some kind of approval, whereas the unconditional clause, I think, would be like, we're leaving and there's nothing you can do about it because this clause says we can leave at any time. And I think it can be very dangerous to do that, right? Like if you think about in American history, the whole Civil War was about, secession, right? And about the ability of, states to leave whenever they want, which they're not really allowed to. There needs to be some kind of approval in order to do that. You can't just say, bye, I'll see you later, and you just have to deal with it. So I think the difference is whether it needs approval. I think what must have happened was the situation got to the point where the Federation was like, we totally understand where you're coming from. We did wrong X, Y, Z, so we approve that you leave. Whereas the unconditional clause, I think, would be they can leave whenever they want without approval. Does that seem right, Chrissie?
Yeah, your analogy of the Civil War is exactly where I was going, other than Brexit. It was, particularly with the American Civil War, you have this situation where the American Revolution is still within living memory for some people, and they're like, well, if we could just leave then why can't we just leave now? A lot of Southerners thought that way, and they were forgetting that included a war that lasted for 6-7 years, and an immense amount of negotiations to get to a point of actually being able to not be at odds anymore, or at least be able to have a...
and a lot of bloodshed, too, to get to that point, right?
Yeah, I'm trying, because, we didn't have normalized relationship with Britain until after the War of 1812, but at least to be able to, trade and stuff like that. And then also think about, like, with Brexit, too. You have this whole situation. You have to have an election. The people have to approve it. But even after that was done, it was, 2 years, I think?
Yeah, they had to negotiate a bunch of stuff, right? Yeah. Before they could approve it and say, okay, it's done. Like, you can't just do it, because there are all of these interlocking relationships and benefits and risks. There's, all this stuff you have to do. You can't just, leave it behind and hope for the best, I think.
And a lot of it is how interconnected things are. An entire planet, Vulcan Navarre can remove itself and not necessarily be worried about feeding its people because it had the capacity to feed its people prior to its involvement with the Federation. But, in the modern world, particularly, again, going to the Civil War, you have that issue of many people in the South starved because they hadn't any way to get food, which they were primarily importing from the North, so that they could use all of their land to grow cotton. So you have those kind of trade issues that are going on. And if an entity can be self-sufficient, it makes it a lot easier to remove themselves. But there's still going to be issues.
Mm-hmm. Thad, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, to sort of echo on that, I agree with what Justin and Chrissie were saying. And again, to talk about Brexit, there's been all that debate about hard Brexit versus soft Brexit. And that's kind of the thing. If the UK needs to have trade deals and negotiations with the EU, and that was part of the thing. They wanted to keep some of that benefit without the other, and that's actually kind of what that kind of harkens back to what the Federation president was saying, that if Navarre leaves, then if they leave, unilaterally, then they would just lose everything. But the Federation isn't going to just let a world that's inside their territory, be they're not going to stand by while they have a problem. For instance, what if the Borg invade and Navarre okay, we're going to sit this one out, and they leave, but the Federation is still fighting the Borg, and if the Borg head towards Navarre, it's in the Federation's best interest to continue to defend Navarre, because if Navarre falls, then they'll just continue to attack other worlds. But Navarre has no obligation to defend Federation worlds, that sort of thing.
Good analogy.
Okay. Okay, I can see that one there. I guess I wasn't thinking that aspect of it. My thought was that if they can leave at any time, then they're not going to prevent them from leaving at any time anyway.
But it's not really leaving at any time. I think what the Federation president is saying is you can. She didn't say it this explicitly, but I think it's like you could request to leave at any time, and if we approve it, you can go. Like, we won't stop you if we feel like there's good enough reason, but that doesn't. They can't just leave. They need to request and get the approval, I think.
But I don't know. I guess that's not what she's saying, though. She's like,
she is.
She's determining whether or not they're allowed to go. Then, so they're not allowed to leave at any time, is what you're saying now. Oh, hello. I hear the phone ringing here. Hello. Hi.
I'm here.
Is this John?
This is he.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for calling us in today here, John. We really appreciate it. Listeners, we got a special guest for you here joining us to discuss for a little bit. John Ottman, director of this episode and Academy Award-winning editor of Bohemian Rhapsody, and composer for over 30 films, composing music for over 30 films, and he's edited over 10 films already, and he's wetting his toes on the directing, although he has directed a film before this.
Yes, my teen horror opus, Urban Legends 2.
Awesome.
Nice.
Excellent. You know, this is
also
such...
done in Canada.
Also done in Canada. We've got a great film up here in Canada. We got some great stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
Was that done in Vancouver?
No, Toronto.
Done in Toronto, that one?
Just like the Discovery.
So you're familiar... familiar with the Toronto film scene.
Yeah.
So, John, you've had quite the voyage here, and you've got your fingers in a lot of pies in film and television right now here. Like, primarily, I know you from your composing history here, right? But, you know, I remember the first time I heard that you were editing was when the discussion and the Academy Awards were coming around, and the nominations for Bohemian Rhapsody came out, and I'm like, really? John Ottman, the composer? Yeah. It seemed very surprising. So can you talk about...
I've been editing the films I've composed for going back since the very beginning, because Bryan Singer basically had a blackmail situation, which he would admit, where I just said, I don't want to edit the film, I just want to write the score. And he says, you're never going to write the score for any of my films unless you're the editor. So that's how the double duty started. Otherwise, why would anyone put themselves through that kind of living hell? Because on the size of those movies, I'm not only managing the thing from beginning to end. Then there's the score got to write, and it was also, let's just say I was more involved than my credits imply.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's
interesting.
But yeah, that's the irony of getting the Oscar for the editing, because the music was my first love, and then I would always complain about having to go edit the movie, and of course that's what I win the award for, But I'll take it.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? What an amazing thing to be remembered for. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So,
and it's ironic because on TV you really have no control over the edit, so it's extremely it's hard for me being a control freak, because basically had control of my film to the end, and then TV basically you get 4 days to do anything as much as you possibly can in just 4 days, then you're out.
Wow. So I'm just curious, John, like, how did you get your start in composing?
Well, I'm trying to remember now. I was doing it as a hobby, and I was doing a very, very low budget feature film with Bryan Singer, and it's a much longer story, but basically bottom line is I was editing that, and the composer we had, it wasn't really working out, and so we had a Sundance deadline, that Sundance Film Festival, and so Brian's back was against the wall, and I said, look, I can write the score, and he was leery, but he says, okay, and then of course I had known the psychology of the character. It was this dark character who had this like public access TV station and kind of turned this town upside down, and so I sort of went at it from a psychological point of view of the music, and it sort of transformed the movie, and then it won the Sundance, and I guess no one had really done that extensive cutting and scoring on a movie, and so then when we put The Usual Suspects together, that's where when I said I just want to write the score, and he said, hell no.
So
there was
like
dependency issues, let me just say.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I'll just say, like, I've been obviously a lifelong Star Trek fanatic, mainly the original, Next Generation, and Voyager were my three shows. And then I remember coming home at night, working on X-Men 2, and I'd come home and have my dinner, and I'd watch reruns of Star Trek Voyager because I hadn't really seen it in the first run. And I just sat there saying, I would love to, I had the fantasy of being a recurring director on that show, and it was way too early for me then. I was too young. But so now here we go, and I got to direct a Star Trek episode.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well,
go ahead.
Talk about how you got involved initially with Star Trek Discovery, because you came in season 3 as a consulting producer for the show.
Right. Yeah. Well, I met with Alex Kurtzman, who created Discovery with Brian Fuller, and I just told him what a fanatic I was and about my lifelong dream of being a recurring director on a Star Trek show, and I had some other Star Trek spin-off ideas and so forth. And so he knew my interest, and I didn't know he had actually a fan of my music, and so I was going to a meeting thinking no one knows who the hell I am, but so like to prove yourself and all this stuff. So then he called me. He needed help because he was sort of overwhelmed with all of his other shows and doing the third season of Discovery. So I came in and basically was the overseer of the edits and so forth. Before the showrunner would come in, I'd work with the showrunner on the edits, and then obviously Michelle Paradise had the final word, but I went and kind of helped shape the episodes, and brought with it all of my passion about Star Trek and what someone would do or wouldn't do and so forth. So I guess they tried to figure out a title for me, so it was consulting producer.
Did you have to come up to Toronto for that?
And the promise was, if you help out in season 3 as a in post, then we'll give you an episode in season 4. So.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
For that consulting work, did you have to come up to Toronto for that?
No, all the editing's done here in Los Angeles.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
So talk about talk about directing a Star Trek episode right now during the COVID period of time, because one of the things that I've really appreciated about season 4 so far is the scenes that are taking place with just 2 characters or 3 characters and all of the talking that's happening. Like, this is something that I've wanted Star Trek to do over the last 3 years of Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard, and we're getting so much of it right now.
Exactly. The most satisfying moments in Star Trek aren't things blowing up. It's when Picard is sitting behind his desk talking about some deep issue, which usually involves politics or doing the right thing, and caught in moral dilemmas, and so I agree. And so I've been wanting the show to become more of that, and I think they're trying to pivot in that direction a little bit, and also make modern audiences, who want the bells and whistles and things exploding also to satisfy those needs as well, But I mean, Gene Roddenberry said this is an adventure. So even he was like, even though the episodes always had some allegory, or often had some allegory to what was going on politically at the time in the nation or so forth, at the bottom line, he also wanted them to be entertaining.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, since you're a big fan of Star Trek and had this dream to direct on Star. Like, what was that experience like for you? Was there anything that was surprising about it, or like favorite thing in directing Star Trek?
Well, first of all, the people on the show are just fantastic people. They're all so nice and so happy to do what they're doing, and so that alone is just. It's just a nice environment to be in. So I guess that's my favorite part of working on the show. No big egos or anything like that. My episode was not an easy episode because it was all over the place in terms of the company having to move. It wasn't a bottle episode where you're all just in the sets of Discovery. I was in a snow rock quarry an hour outside of Toronto, which got dusted with snow, which we were hoping, so it would look like the Andes Mountains or something. Then we were at a university posing as Navarre, and you would think that we would have a controlled environment there finally, but no, we were chasing the sun because the building we were in had these 30-foot windows, 360 degrees,
wow,
which we couldn't cover with tarps. So we were basically, and no matter what situation I got myself into, there was no time to shoot. And so then we went to the AR wall, which was an education, and we did them in a shuttle bay, but also then brought the shuttle inside the AR wall to have the snow environment around when they're inside the shuttle. So, and then the Discovery set. So I was maxed out for time. And then you add COVID to that, which really adds time because of the mask protocols and so forth. And it's a little frustrating because you can't really mingle or talk along with the actors because of the face shields and so forth. They'd be very careful with the actors. And then basically when, everyone splits from the set and then they take off their masks when they're alone with each other. So it's, it added time for sure.
Wow, sounds like a lot of challenges. I'm just kind of curious, when you do an episode, and I know that there's preparation and all that, but when you're actually like shooting the episode and doing all of that, like how long does that take?
Well, the shoot is 12 days, and normally you have pre-production for like 3 weeks, and we had 8 days to basically plan everything out. I mean, they had already internally decided that we're going to go to a location for Navarre because it originally was going to be a set. And ironically, the snow scene was also going to be a set, and I was trying to figure out reading the script, like how the hell are we going to do that on a soundstage? So I was completely freaked out. But then we decided to go to a location. Thank God. Although the location again was a godsend in one way because it looks great, but it was we had a blizzard just before shooting. The winds were so high that we had to abandon the camera crane. But it's funny because I brought out. I was thinking of Alien when I read the script. I wanted to be like, you walk outside and it's like almost like so inhospitable. And the original concept was this wild, crazy CGI kind of landscape, which we changed for budget. But, and so I brought out, wind fans and the fake snow to blow in front of the wind fans to make it really, really snowy. And then on the day, we got a windstorm, and then something flew in an actor's eye. We got lost 4 hours, and so it's like,
wow,
it's all that kind of stuff. But we got through it alive, and I got some good stuff.
John, you've mentioned a couple times the AR wall. Is this the technology that was originally invented for Mandalorian? That's now come over. Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit about using that and how that works?
Yeah, well, basically, it's a little more than 180 degrees around. It's pretty huge, but when you put stuff in there and then have actors walking around, it's not as huge as you would hope. But it's basically an LED wall, and they project backgrounds up there, whether it's a visual effects background or a real landscape, such as the snow landscape. That was actually the rock quarry that they took shots of. And then I chose like which shots I liked from the rock quarry, which looked like the mountains, Andes Mountains, like I said, and those were projected around the shuttle set. But it's far more complicated, of course, than just going on a stage and shooting actors against a background and walking around with a camera, because there are something like 200 or so sensors in the ceiling of the what we call the volume, or the AR volume, and there's a sensor on each camera, and so when the camera is moving around, it calculates how the background would move if it were a real background in terms of parallax with that lens.
Wow!
But the problem, but the complication comes in where if you want to do a 2-camera setup facing a character, you can't, because the whole system gets confused because it doesn't know what camera it's trying to please. And so you have to sort of do, single camera setups, or the other camera has to be shot, in like complete other directions, that the sensors over there can make sense of the background in front of that camera, So it's a lot of time, a lot of rejiggering, focus on background, and you have to place the actors. Well, I had to place actually 15 feet away from the walls so that the background looked more realistic, because our background was CGI, but it was quite an education, and it can look really great. It locks you into basically what you're looking at, though. It's not a green screen, so you're committed. But it does save a lot of money, and so it's a great technology and for certain uses. Mandalorian has a budget to throw in dirt mounds and junk and stuff to hide the seam between the floor and the wall. So it really gives it much more a realistic look than the challenge with like the shuttle bay in Discovery. Was really a fine art to hide the wall, or to hide the seam between the real floor and the fake background. But they did a really good job. That was really complicated, actually.
So I'm just curious about something. When you're using CGI on that wall, so that's kind of like the final, CGI or graphics
right.
for
And
that.
so
that
you're only
against.
as good
Okay.
as the you're committed right there. So you're only as good as the CGI is on that wall. So if it's a little, if the resolution isn't great or if the effect isn't so terrific, then you have to really step back from it, And so then your actors have very little room, like in our situation. I think we really gave it a great illusion of being very big and having extras walk by camera and so forth. And even though, but it is illusion because there's really not a lot of space to walk around in there.
Yeah, I think this season, with that wall, everybody's done a really great job. Like in particular in this episode, when Tilly and the cadets are in the shuttle and there's this creature that's lurking and they see it come up, like that definitely felt like a reaction. Like you could tell that they could see it and they're reacting to it, which is really cool. So
right. Well, the tentacle was added later, of course. The background with the snow and so forth was on the LED wall. Yeah.
Okay, so there are elements that they add after that.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
That was just me cueing them saying, okay, tentacle, and then, and I had to tell the visual effects team, and I told the actors the tentacle is going to go, it's going to slap on the wall, on the window, and then it's going to go forward and dive down in the snow. And so the actors, the camera would shoot that way, and so then you have to note to the visual effects team, like, this is what the intent is, and so they knew what I was thinking,
Oh, that's interesting. So it is a bit of a blend with what you've had to do before, because you had to do even with the green screen, you had to do those kind of directions like tentacles coming, and they'd react to it.
Exactly. They were responding to nothing. Yeah.
Interesting.
Or reacting to nothing.
Well, they did a great reaction. It made me feel like it was already there.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So back to the COVID restrictions here. How does this affect filming of an episode? Like, as a director, are you focusing on one of the characters or one of the plot lines at a time for filming?
It doesn't. COVID really didn't affect that. It just affected. I guess again, it was just a time suck in terms of mainly makeup and hair fixes, because normally those two, just before you shoot, they run in there and they do all these fixes on their hair and their makeup, and a lot of directors sit there and complain because they don't even see a difference after they spend like 5 minutes. Actors just like, let me just shoot, But with COVID, they can't go in together. They have to go each one by one. So the makeup person goes in there and does the fixes, then they walk out, then the hair person. That took time away. I'm trying to remember what other delays really were caused by COVID, and but I know there were others. But it was in my memory, that's the main delay that there was. But no, it didn't really affect where we were shooting and when we were shooting. That was pretty normal. For some reason, our pre-production time was cut very short. I can't remember the reasons for that. It could have just been for availability, and because I had to quarantine for 14 days in my hotel room, which I think that might have been originally intended to be the pre-production time.
That was coming into the country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting what's going to happen in the future. Like, I'm planning on going to Chicago and for the convention in April there, but with the Omicron variant coming in, it's like, what's that going to mean for travel again? Like, I'm not too worried about the variant, but what's that going to mean for travel and things in the future here? So
I know. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that if I do get an episode again, that we're in a different world and I can sort of mingle with people, and and they can see my face when I'm talking to them. It's frustrating when you're directing someone, because a lot of it is how you emote your face, or at least with me, my facial expressions, so they kind of get it, and it's just it's hard when all they see is your eyes,
Yeah, could definitely see that.
Have you directed any other television? Like, how would this compare to that?
No, I've never directed television before. It's I've done a lot of ghost directing on the films I was doing with Brian, especially reshoots and things like that. And of course, my teen horror film 20 years ago. And a couple other little small things I don't even credit myself to. But yeah, no, this is TV is a whole new world for me. It's interesting,
But did it feel? Well, maybe I think on a film, probably you take more time to do these things. But like, what are the kind of differences? Because I know Discovery has, a bit more going on. They're trying to make it kind of a bit like a film experience, but it is different.
For sure. And I remember I really was not, aside from watching Star Trek, didn't watch too much TV. But I remember when I was working on a film one time, and I was watching Game of Thrones, and I didn't understand what was going on necessarily, but I was just marveling at what they could do on a television show. And I literally, you know, like the Lannister father, he could just read the phone book and I'd be sucked into it, you know. But I was just like, I don't know, like how. And so I was like, that's the world for me, because not that I don't want to do films, but I'm so hyper organized because I had to be a multitasker my whole career. So I'm a lunatic in terms of being prepared. And so, and I see so much waste go on in films where there's just too much time, and there's just so much second guessing, and, you know, to the point of sometimes crippling the creative process. And so here you got to like make a decision and go for it, you know. And I kind of felt like I was a good fit for that. And so I went in really prepared. I had storyboards and, you know, all my fancy shots, but, you know, it just had it all planned out in terms of managing the time. So I made all of my days, even though it was a really complicated shoot. And so for that reason, you know, again, I'm hoping I'll be back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any favorite like shots or scenes?
Well, I would say my favorite scene would be between Tarina and Saru in the meditation room. Uh-huh. Even though it's not as long as it was, but I think it was beautiful the way it came out, and it looks really pretty, and I think the dynamic between them really works there. And I'll also say, you know, out in the snow, I think that was sort of an achievement to make the rock quarry look like some giant mountainous place. It is such an illusion. Really, those are just the mountains pushed up by bulldozers. And I was so afraid we were going to get there, and it was going to be a mud planet, because it was so warm all of a sudden during pre-production. I was like, "What's going on? Why is it getting warm?" Like, all the snow was melting.
What time of year? What time of year was this shot?
It was I want to say almost a year ago from today. Okay. So it was probably October, November, around there. Okay. And it was cold and snowy, and when we got there it was like really snowy, but then suddenly during the pre-production the snow stopped and the sun came out, and I was like, what the hell? I said, oh, of course the sun's going to come out because I want this quarry to be snowy. And then scouts would go out to the location, and they would send me pictures of it melting, and I was just so heartbroken. But then, really, the night before we shot, it got completely dusted with snow, and then of course that day we had a little blizzard. So, yeah, the force was with me on that one.
Nice.
So this episode's going to be probably remembered most for the departure of Tilly at the end of the episode, leaving off to Starfleet Academy here. Can you, like, Tilly is a fan favorite for, I think, most people in the series, like most fans of the series. So this is a big episode. Like, I had no idea that this was coming, that she was going to be leaving the show. And I won't ask you what's coming. Okay, we're not going to bother with that. But at this point here, I had no idea. There wasn't a leak. There wasn't a peep. Nothing.
Yeah, well, that's good, I guess. And I mean, I'm kind of taking a sidetrack here, but the funny thing is I had mentally prepared for a different episode, and so I hadn't really registered this episode in my mind too much, even though I kind of skimmed over it. And there was some sort of screw up or a redecision made at the last minute, and so even though I wasn't in pre-production yet, I was at home reading the scripts and mentally preparing for another one. So then, and I had skimmed through this one, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. You know, she goes, and then I saw the different locations and the snow, and I'm like, wow, that'd be both an exciting and terrifying episode. So I wasn't sure I wanted to. I was like, wow, I'm not sure I wanted to do that. It was my first time out. And then suddenly, my agent says, you know, you're not doing that other episode. You're doing this one. I'm like, what? So, it took me for a little, but yeah. And so but going back to the Tilly thing, and then there was I guess added weight to it for when I read it. I was like, wow, this is like a big deal, you know. So I was sort of glad they entrusted me with it, you know, I guess surprised, but I'm glad. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I got this episode, because just to me, it is more Trek, and it's more insular. It can be its own story and not have to depend on a lot of, you know, the DMA storyline, you know.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I like about it as well, is that there are things in this episode, like what happens with Tilly. It definitely has a beginning, a middle, and an end to it for that, but the DMA is affecting other things, but there isn't really anything in particular going on with the anomaly. It's just affecting politics and people's personal decisions and their lives, and I just really like that kind of impact that it's having, instead of like there's a big scene with the anomaly out there and they're being hit by it, and I like that it was kind of very personal about how it affected people. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So did you feel a responsibility to do Tilly justice when you were filming?
Oh, absolutely.
Her
and
departure?
and the showrunner tells me, look, the most important scene of this entire thing, it all boils down to that moment with her and Burnham in the corridors. You better, it's like, and so you get there in the set and you're like, oh, your heart's beating like, holy shit, this is it, this is the moment. So I just spent a lot of time with the actors, before we even shoot, just kind of coming up. I mean, they're so instinctual. There's not a whole lot in terms of pulling things off. I have to suggest, but we would go through it and kind of balance it out and make it feel really realistic and emotionally true. And so that's a lot of the work that goes on with directing that people they forget about. It's not just like showing a shot, having a shot capture something and making the lighting look nice. It's a lot of the work you do with the actors.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the actors, what was it like to work with David Cronenberg?
Oh yeah, so there's another reason that the masks thing was so frustrating. I'm like walking up to like a god, because the Dead Zone is one of my all-time favorite films. It, to me, is like the Dead Zone, Empire Strikes Back. It's like it's in that category of dissertations on how to make movies. And, I walked up to him and I just like, look, I want to just get on my knees and pray to you. And he goes, oh, I can't ever get enough of that, So, because I said, I'm sure people have gushed every time they walk up to you. That's when he said, they can never do it enough. So, but yeah, he's a really sweet guy, and I was not, for the films he makes, you expect it to be some like weird, sadistic kind of, freaky person, but he's really nice and down to earth, and I think he's just really pleased to be there and be a character on that show.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty fun. As a Canadian, I was pretty thrilled last year when we saw him in a trailer. I pointed out right away when there was the next time on Discovery. I'm like, what the hell was that? Was that David Cronenberg? What's going on here?
As soon as I saw him in season 3 with those big glasses, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It's like I love his getup also.
Mm-hmm. So, question about the character of Kovich then. So, we as fans watching the show, we still don't quite know who he is or who he works for or what his job is within this. Is there anything that you can elaborate on for this character?
I don't have any information. I just have a feeling that there's something more to him. I know people have talked about it on the show. I think they themselves are wondering. I think there is some sort of long-term plan or reveal of what he's all about, but I don't know what it is, frankly, even myself.
It's interesting having Cronenberg in this role because, to bring in Cronenberg, that's like a statement, because Cronenberg is a major film director. Well, he's done some acting, he's a film director, and so to bring him in for this is kind of major.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, he gives a lot of street cred to the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe he's a 32nd century movie director. Kovic is. I don't know, but yeah, it's an interesting mystery for who he is.
Yeah.
So, what did you find the most challenging aspect of directing for Discovery?
Again, I'll just go back to time and multiple locations. That was really it. I mean, it's getting a ton of stuff done in 12 days. It seems like a lot of time. It's really not, especially when you're dealing with so many restrictions and environmental issues and not having full days to shoot. I guess that was really it. I mean, it's I worked with a really great DP, and we got along really well, and so we had a good time. Again, another person who I wish we didn't have the mask, so we could have really hung out, and he seemed to really jive with what I was looking to do with the camera and so forth, and he lit things really beautifully. And so yeah, I was we were fortunate that we were over the planet Navarre for the therapy session scenes in Colbert's office. So it gave it this very warm, inviting feel. And even then, I brought in a carpet into the room because I'm like, well, because all of Discovery has these hard, really inhospitable-looking, cold floors, and it's like if I lived on that ship, I'd be like, it's like where do I go to feel zen, And so I think that's the first time a rug has been brought to any set. And of course, you have to get it all approved, and fortunately, it was approved to bring a rug in there, and it's going to give it more of a warm feel.
Oh, nice. I have a question about something small in this episode, and I don't know how these things come about, if it was in the script, if it was your idea or someone else's idea, but one of the things that we see in Tilly's quarters and that then is given later to Adira is this snow globe with the Enterprise NX-01 inside of it, and I love Enterprise, and we've gotten some references to it, which is great, but do you know what the origin of that was?
Well, the origin. Why that Enterprise is in there?
Well, either that or just this idea of the snow globe that says all is possible, and I mean I think it's something we haven't seen before. The
snow globe thing got pared down a little bit. It used to be much more of a bookend for the episode, where Tilly was literally looking through the snow globe, where the globe engulfed the screen. And then at the end, Adira walks in, and the snow globe is on on their bed. Where Tilly has given it to Adira, and then Adira shakes it, and you can see all is possible. So that was a scripted device for a bookend in the show.
Okay.
I mean, it's still there, but it's made much more subtle than it was before.
Okay, and the having the NX-01 specifically inside of it? I don't know why, unless I just don't know, unless it's because it's the first Enterprise. I don't know why that would matter to Discovery crew. I mean, it's a really, really long time ago for them, but I think I was reading something that there was some similar snow globe with the NX-01 that some company had put out, but then they custom built it for this. I thought I read from Mario Marrero, who's the prop master, about that.
Oh, right.
I just didn't know why specifically it was that, but yeah.
Right. We went through a lot of different snow globe designs because when I read the script, of course, my first idea was to start the episode out where we're inside the snow globe, and then we move sideways and we see Tilly's eye looking at it. And so we were going to do a square snow globe and different designs to try to figure out how to get the camera lens, how to get the whole frame engulfed in there. And then we ended up just abandoning that and went into the classic snow globe, and we got a macro lens, then I blew up the shot a little bit, so it really looked really cool. So we went through three different designs. But again, the ship inside the Enterprise, I don't know what the origin of that is myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the show they've wanted to have certain Enterprise references just to give it some love. So maybe it just has to do with that. But
yeah.
So, John, you were talking about how you had an initial impression of wanting to come out from the snow globe here. What kind of influence do you have as a director coming into a TV show after you've read the script? Do you have any oversight over the design of those aliens that were coming after them, those two monsters that were coming after them? Do you have anything over that?
You don't have any say in who gets casted. So not the extras, but the smaller characters and so forth are already precast. Which is totally different from film, and you have consultation and an opinion to chime in on the look of certain things. Some aliens probably have been decided upon already, and then others, if they're intrinsic to the actual episode, like the monster and so forth. Even in this one, there was lots of designs going back and forth between me and a number of people, and the showrunners and the producers, and of course the visual effects team with the monster, and all kind of. I mean, and sort of everyone just chimes in from their own email. Well, I like this. I like option 7, and someone else say I like option 10. I like option 4, and then it all boils down to the decision of the showrunner, of course, and then. That's how the consultation works with a director of a TV episode. You definitely have input, and you definitely have a case you can make, and they respect what you're saying. But at the end of the day, of course, it's going to be the showrunner's decision. And but I was also very surprised how much the director has to do with the photography in terms of setting up shots in television than on film, where you have a director of photography that's sort of almost like a visual director in their own right. And I think because of the way television moves and so forth, despite the gifted DPs on the show, they really look to the director about what do you want to do? How do you want to set this up? And what's your ideas? And so I was glad for that, but it's also sort of like scary because it's like, well, what are your ideas? But we again with this director, with this DP, we really got along well. So we kind of, had a synergistic thing between the two of us in terms of both of our ideas. But again, I'm surprised how much the director has to do with deciding shots if he wants to, because you literally can go into a TV show and these camera people are so amazing, and you literally could just basically, they run in there with the Steadicam and just basically cover it. But then there's no rhyme or reason to your directing. I like to design like a movie's going to happen here for a specific reason. You're telling a story with the camera as opposed to just helter-skelter cameras moving all over the place,
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. Excellent. Can you talk a little bit about working with the three cadets?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely felt like cadets because they're characters you've never met before and actors who have never acted on this TV show before. So they kind of were, it's kind of really realistic, in that regard. But they were very, very, very earnest and very excited to do what they were doing, and really looked to you for, if I told them to stand on their heads, they would, But they were just a pleasure to work with. Again, zero egos, and I felt bad for the guy who had to die so fast.
Yes, yeah, I was convinced the whole time that it was a simulation and the guy wasn't really dead and whatnot.
Really?
Like, I was totally convinced.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you thought that, because I think once Tilly was like, it's real. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought Kovich was going to walk out at one point and just be like, "Yeah,
really?
Congratulations, you passed the simulation."
Yeah, and this guy's not really dead, and you guys weren't in danger and whatnot.
Right.
This is your Kobayashi Maru.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's interesting, because I think as soon as or shortly before Tilly says this is real, I was like, oh, okay, this seems like it's real. I'm just kind of curious also. So between the cadets, there was this kind of like animosity and hostility that was kind of built into things.
Yeah.
So were you telling the actors to play the cadets to kind of play that up or not have as much? Or I'm just curious,
sure.
like how that
they got it though. They were they from the script they totally understood what the dynamics were, and then we tried to figure out a way how to block it to sort of play up those dynamics where I had Gorev kind of walk over and kind of intentionally hit Haral, knock him over as he's walking over, and then stage how they're going to have this confrontation. So how do you, that's great when you work with actors, because sometimes when you read a scene and you're in a very cramped small space like that, you're like, okay, how the hell are we going to stage this altercation when there's like no way to move around? And so that's when you kind of you do your run throughs with the actors. They'll have ideas. Well, what if I stand over here and he's on the floor, and I knock him there, and that feels more natural. But actors will do what they have an instinct of what looks more realistic and natural, because they don't want to do something that looks phony. So I love working with actors, and I know directors always do in terms of blocking. Unless you have a great idea for blocking and then suddenly they feel like they don't want to do it and your whole plan is unraveled. So that can be really disappointing. So, because when I had all my shot lists, dependent on blocking, I'm thinking of like who's going to walk over where, when, and how they're going to be tracked with the camera. And then an actor comes in and go, I wouldn't walk over there. I'd walk over there. And they're like, no,
Okay. Well, glad it worked out.
Are you sure you wouldn't want to walk over there?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, John, is there anything about your work on Star Trek that we haven't asked that you'd like to talk about? Anything in the directing or some of your the consulting credits that you did previous to this?
I don't know, nothing I can think of. It was just all I can say. It was a magical experience because you're working with amazing people in the world of Star Trek, and it's both fun and agonizing at the same time to direct an episode of TP. So, but I guess it's more fun because you're in a fun world, as opposed to it being some show where you're in some dreary environment. You don't really want to be there. So this is the place you want to be with people you want to work with.
Oh, that's great.
Excellent. Well, before we let you go, I did have a question for you on one of your scores for a movie that I absolutely love. So I'm a big fan of Halloween H2O. So, and
the one,
I also have
the one that's the debacle. Okay.
I love Halloween H2O. I think Halloween H2O is a lot of fun, but I also think Halloween Resurrection is a lot of fun, and I think I'm the only person on the planet who loves that movie too. So, but I also host a Hitchcock podcast. And so I wanted to talk about the Janet Leigh scene in the film, and whose idea was it to put the psycho music over top of that?
That was
mine.
However, the overriding idea from the director was he wanted a Hitchcock-like score, and so I was like, great. I mean, because that's the way he wanted. He brought me on because he wanted that kind of thing, and so what we did is, independent of the Weinstein brothers ever even knowing this was his idea, this is his take on it. I went off and wrote that whole score with that kind of take on it. And then they saw it and they were horrified, like, what are you doing? You know? And so that's why the temporary music that was in the movie, which was from Scream and Mimic and so forth, they owned it. So they basically just used that to intersperse with some of the stuff I did. So I still had like 65% of the score in that film. And fortunately, as a hangover, that part, obviously that nod stayed in the film because it's fun, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Blu-ray release has got some of the alternate music and some of the scenes and whatnot in it, which is pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, and and now that I have distance from it, if I were a producer on that show, on that movie, and I had test screenings that were through the roof, with 90% test scores, and they were testing with Mimic and Scream, and then suddenly at the last minute, the director brings in a Hitchcock score, I'm going to feel like really insecure, and even though it might be just as high, there's no time to do that test. And so I think in retrospect, it was just out of paranoia. They wanted to dump some of the nods to Hitchcock and just go straight, straight obvious sort of like, crazy music that was sort of just, in your face.
Yeah. Excellent. Right on. John, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate having you come on and talk about your work on Star Trek. It's been great. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you online? And is there any work that's going to be coming out shortly that you can talk about?
No, I'm developing a film over at a studio, and again, development means that it may never happen, but I'm encouraged because they're actually spending money on it to do rewrites and so forth. So I'm really excited about that. It's a biopic on a composer. But other than that, I'm just smelling the roses and relaxing and sort of doing the things I've dreamt about, which is like do a Star Trek episode. So that's about it. And online, I don't know. I haven't been on my website in years, so I don't think people can find me there anymore. I guess Facebook is the only thing I check in on, and that's not good for my health because I'm pretty outspoken about what's going on with the U.S. So, but yeah, I guess it would be Facebook. And I'm on Twitter too, at Real John Ottman. I don't get on there much, but it's at Real John Ottman.
Mm-hmm. Is the goal then that this biopic is going to be something that you're going to direct as well? Is directing something that you really want to pursue?
No, this is for me. Forward? This is my project to direct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And is that something you're going to try and do more going forward? You're going to after, let's say, this one gets done, you're going to try and move on to the next one and keep directing?
Yeah. I mean, my whole game plan was to, knock on wood, get myself comfortable enough where, from all those years of my scoring and editing, to be able to do what I want to do, which was direct. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm in a place in my life where I want to relax as well, why would I put myself through that living hell unless I really believed in the project? So I believe this project I'm developing over at the studio, it would get me out of bed every day, and I would feel very happy to have my life turned upside down for that. But I'm only doing things that make me happy now.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah,
that was the plan.
Awesome.
Okay. Otherwise, I'll just lay by the pool.
No, it's been great talking to you, and hopefully maybe we'll ask you to do another Star Trek episode in the future.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Excellent. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thanks so much, John.
Great meeting you guys.
Yeah,
all
great
right.
to meet you.
Good to meet you too. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you later. Live long and prosper.
Bye-bye. Live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.
Bye.
Awesome! What a wonderful thing to have happen in the middle of our podcast.
Yeah.
I couldn't. It's like we planned it or something. But
maybe.
you know.
But yeah, it's so great to get insights from somebody that worked on the episode we're talking about this week. It's awesome.
Excellent. Now I got to remember what we were talking about last.
We were talking about
Navarre.
Navarre and the Federation. I have something I wanted to bring in. Oh, we were talking about that kind of stuff. But I have something I want to bring in because it came from our listener, Rebecca Skipper, who's been sending me questions, great questions. So, one of the things that happens in this episode is that there is kind of this compromise solution where there's this committee that's going to look over all of the kind of, I guess, relationships that the Federation has with its member worlds. And Burnham's going to be on that committee. She's a Navarre citizen. She's part of Starfleet, so it's kind of acceptable all the way around. But here's what our listener Rebecca Skipper had to say. When Burnham proposes that all worlds have a committee designed to mediate between the world and the Federation at large, I was encouraged, noting that Tarina felt that Navarre's needs were not being met because the Federation was so disconnected from its member worlds. Is Star Trek saying that the decline in civilization doesn't have to be inevitable? Can a civilization survive indefinitely if it is open to reform? Which I think is a really interesting question. And I think, Chrissie, you had some thoughts on that already, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is how do you define the survival of a society? And at what point is it a different society? And this, I'm not saying that with a value judgment, just as objectively as possible. Like, I guess a good example would be the Eastern Roman Empire. You have the Eastern part of the empire, which starts to be developed under Caesar and then Antony and Octavian / Augustus. I mean, it's before that too, but that's when it really hits its stride. And then eventually that is still the Roman Empire to the moment it falls in 1453. They call themselves the Byzantine at that point, but it is still supposed to be the Roman Empire. But would it have been recognizable to Julius Caesar? Probably not. So,
yeah, it's a really good question. Like, also, we have this thing called the United Federation of Planets in the 32nd century, but would someone from the 22nd, 23rd, 24th century recognize it as the Federation, or would they have to be told, like, this is what it is now? By the way, Earth isn't part of the Federation. It's, headquartered over in this space here. You have a lot different members. Like, is it, like, what is it that makes it the same thing? Is it just the name, or is it that they still try to adhere by the same principles, or something else, right? Yeah. I mean, what Brandon or Thad, like, what do you think about this?
That's a complicated question. I think the Federation is still the Federation. And I think that's exemplified by our Discovery crew, who came from the 23rd century and still see it as their Federation, even though it's changed.
Yeah, I think what binds it together is the principles, because if they called themselves the United Federation of Planets, but they were basically now all about, conquest and subjugation, we would say they're just using the name, but it's not really the Federation as we would define it, right?
But it definitely still has that same goal, the same goals as the Federation, and it even did before we, even during season 3, before they started their renaissance thanks to Discovery, like, they were still, with the small amount of territory, the little they could do with the small amount of travel they could do, they were still trying to be the Federation. You could say that it was probably a lost cause until they were able to travel farther distances again, but they were still trying.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, like, based on that question there, like, I think I might have a more of a pessimistic view on it, like...
Indefinitely is also a really long time, so...
Right. I mean, you can write whatever you want when you're writing a story, and, while we have a lot of the values here that we recognize... I mean, we've gone through a period that we don't know anything about, where the Federation, we don't know everything that's happened. But, I mean, like, even if you look here on Earth, I mean, how many times have people, rioted up and fought against, their leaders who are in charge, and, things are okay for a while, but then once things start to change, you'll always get that group of people who doesn't like change, and they're going to fight against change, and so like, does society have to fall apart? Well, no, but it has to grow, and you're always, as you grow, you're going to lose some people along the way, and so it doesn't look the same anymore. Like, Canada now doesn't look the same as it did in 1867 when we became a country. And, like, while I still feel like this is Canada, I wasn't around in 1867, and I mean, like I don't want to put it that way, but it seems like older people generally have more conservative values, and as they get older, they develop conservative values. Like, I know people who have been liberal in their youth, but as they get older, their values get more conservative. There's always got to be new growth and new coming in to help foster change, but there's always going to be people upset with it, and that's going to cause problems. Look at Brexit, right? Look at Brexit. In Canada, we already have people talking about a Wexit vote because they don't like it, because they want the Western Canadian provinces to secede from Canada, and they don't think about what problems that is.
Quebec's,
I don't know.
Eternally forever.
Quebec.
I mean, and these. Like, I think a constant thing that happens is change, right? Like, if you were to go back to, let's say, 1860 and talk to a Southern planner about what they thought civilization is, and go to, 2021 America, would they consider this the civilization they would recognize? No. I would say probably not, because they're embedded in certain values and things that we have discarded, right? Well, ideally, at least at the most explicit level. At least at the most explicit level of actual, like, legal slavery. But, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But like, I think that can change over time. And I'm sure what we think of as our civilization now, someone 150 years from now would be like, we've evolved to this or that, or it's different now. So, like, I think you're right that it is a really complicated question, because, like, what's meant by civilization? Like, what does it mean to you? How does it change over time? I think, in a way, it's an incredible miracle, right, that the founding principles from 2161 are still there over 1,000 years later. That seems quite unlikely, right? Like, think about what people valued or thought about 1,000 years ago. It would be very different, and they would not recognize our world as it is, right? So I think you're right to an extent, Brandon. Like, writing allows us to have that consistency that in the real world over 1,000 years probably wouldn't happen,
Yeah. And it's like, well, civilization doesn't fall. Like, here we are, like wherever you want to look. Like, we've been around 65 million years, or if you look at it from a Christian perspective, we've been around for 6,000 years. Like, whichever your perspective on the two
1.5 million.
Like,
don't go all the way back.
Sorry. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Sorry.
65 million years ago.
Whichever number you look at, I mean, we're still here. Okay,
well,
and
it depends on,
we're still, as a civilization, we're still
what
here.
You define as a civilization. Well,
yes.
It depends on what you define as a civilization. I mean, also, like, if you're looking at the actual people, like, if you're to take a look, for example, at people that have ancestry going way back, like in the United Kingdom, it's a lot of them are that have ancestry going way back in that area are people that have been there for, thousands and thousands of years, but there's been tons of different, changeovers for who's in power, what's valued, and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes it's a lot of the same people, like, in the same area, but it looks different. So, anyway.
Yeah. And the only constant is change, and civilization will still be there.
In some
it's
form
just
or
it's going to
another,
look nothing. It won't look anything like
it'll
we
probably
have
look
now.
different, yeah.
You have to differentiate between the species exists versus the civilization exists, though, because yes, I mean, if you put the earliest hominids, we're looking at about 5 million years ago. If you look at Homo sapiens sapiens, somewhere between 500,000 years ago at the very outside to maybe 40,000 years ago, but civilization doesn't start. At least for an historian's perspective, when you're looking at this professionally, academically, civilization doesn't start until we have writing. And
which is what, 10,000 years or something like that? Give or take.
Yeah. It's the earliest Mesopotamian
a small portion of human
cuneiform.
History, right?
Tiny portion.
Right,
but so civilization, the word is derived from the Latin civitas, which is city-state, basically. And so you have to have cities to have civilization, you have to have the writing. Generally speaking, there's always the exceptions that prove the rule, like a lot of the American tribal peoples. We would definitely not call them uncivilized, but they did not have writing, so there's always those. But in terms of that, part of what defines a civilization is what city it's defined around, or what community it's defined around, a physical place. And so, like, humanity to me is not a single civilization. Even now that we have all of the interaction, there's still a lot of difference. And it's not necessarily on, like, national border lines.
Oh, yeah, you could argue that there is a different variety of civilization actually in almost every city in the world. Like, there is something
absolutely.
That's different about each of those things. It's complicated. Yeah. So, Rebecca, long answer. I mean, the answer in short, I guess, is that I don't think that a civilization can, in reality, be kind of the same over time as we might see it in Discovery, really. Even though it's inspiring to think about that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can look at, I mean, people talk about Western civilization. First of all, just remember, when you hear the term Western civilization or the West, what they really mean is Europe and the colonized Americas. That's not the West, No. Maybe North Africa, if you go back far enough, talking about Egypt and when Rome held it.
And they only mean some of those colonized Americas, too.
Right. Mostly colonized North America, north of the Rio Grande, But, yeah, so when you hear that, just know that that's crap. But Rome is one of the longest existing, we'll say civilization. I'm certainly going to say civilization. I'm going to say quasi-continuous governmental structure, okay, at least around some of the same ideas. China also has a long history with that. I am not terribly familiar with that, so I'm going to go with Rome because that's what I know. I'm not trying to be Western-centric. That's what I was getting at a minute ago when I lost my train of thought. If you had plunked somebody from Roman civilization when in the 500s, when they had just thrown off the kings and become a republic, if you had put them ahead 500 years, they would see a lot of the same ideas. They would see it being terribly corrupted. They would see it not being conducted in the same way, but they would see a lot of the same ideas. Another 1,000 years ahead, another 500 years ahead, so 1,000 years out, you're talking about the end of the Roman Empire in the West, in Western Europe, and you're back to having monarchs, kings, they call it emperor. And so there is that massive shift. But the interesting thing is, if you pulled somebody from 100 years prior to that and plunk them 1,000 years later, it's almost the same structure, because you have a Senate that's meaningless, and you have a king, and you have... So there's an interesting bit there. But the thing that bugs me about Discovery with this is, and maybe this is just because they're trying to present the best of all worlds, and I'm a terrible cynic, but that situation should have produced space fascism. I mean, just
which situation?
Yeah, the situation of the burns. So you've got a lack of resources. You've got people who are huddling in on themselves. You've got people who are unable to connect with others, and when they do, there's conflict, and they're trying to otherize them. So it's interesting.
But that's kind of how the Emerald Chain. Yeah,
true. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was keeping that separate from the Federation, but yeah, they had a lot of Federation worlds there. So
yeah, so I felt like that was kind of encroaching on that, on what the Federation was doing. But
absolutely,
anyway, yeah, it's a very interesting discussion, and Rebecca, we appreciate the question, but I'm sure we could talk about it for another hour if we wanted to. But
this is the kind of thing that I tell my students. This is a question that doesn't have an answer, but you discuss it at midnight when you have imbibed on some mind-altering substances in your dorm room. That's what I always tell them.
It is neither the time nor we have those things right now. So okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to jump on here. I got a question here talking about something that was said with Tilly and them that ties into this here.
Okay.
So this armistice with the Emerald Chain that was written by the one cadet's father. this really surprised me because I didn't get the impression that it would go farther than what's her name from last season? Osira, right? So like, so they're saying that somebody who was against it helped to write it, who was against what the Emerald Chain was doing, helped write this armistice that then Osira brought to them. But I mean, like, my impression of season 3 was that Osira was like, this was all a ruse and whatnot. And we've been told now that it's actually gone ahead, even without Osira.
But I mean, we talked about this last time and couldn't agree whether we thought it was a ruse or not. I thought it was genuine, but
I don't think it was a ruse.
Yeah. But regardless of that, once Osira is dead, right, and the leadership changes over, whatever happens there, then they can say, okay, we think there's something valid from this for our peace with the Federation that outlaws enslavement, and they went forward with it. That was what I thought.
I was very surprised.
Oh, okay.
So that part of the episode really bothered me, though, because it seemed to imply that the only reason that the Tellarite cadet could accept the Orion cadet is because his father spoke out against slavery. What if that Orion cadet's father hadn't spoken out against slavery? They still should be able to accept each other as equals and work together.
Yeah. But I think the point of that is they should, but they haven't quite moved. I think what it's saying is they haven't, or the Tellarite hasn't quite moved past thinking about Orions generally as a certain thing, but he's gotten to the point where he can make an exception for this one person, which he still needs to do work to get to the point.
No, I get that, but it also is that's still going to cause problems because this is not going to be the only Orion in Starfleet, and he's going to need to be able to work with other Orions, including ones whose parents weren't activists against slavery.
But I kind of like that in a way because it means that there's still work to do. I think that's one of the messages of this episode. Like, you can have something that can help you with what's in front of you, but there can still be work to do, and it can take a long time to really get to where you need to. So I kind of liked it in that way. But I could totally see that, where it's like, hey, you're probably still racist against Orions, but you're making an exception for this person for this reason, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like the you're one of the good ones sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Which, speaks to the challenges they're dealing with, right? So
that's exactly what I was going to say about how, you talk to people who lean racist, who lean sexist, whatever, they will have an exception that proves the rule. And, that's one of the good ones. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's
terrible. But,
so it's it's reflective of modern society. But it is uncomfortable, and I think it's supposed to be. So.
Okay, so this oversight committee that's going to be developed here. So, I'm kind of wondering how this is going to play out. Like, I'm thinking that this is something that they've said, and we're not really going to see it again. I know that Burnham's said that she's going to be watching over this oversight committee, but I don't think we're really going to see this.
It could go either way, but I could see it coming up again because I think so far they have shown an interest in wading into some of the politics of it. So I think it could come back.
They ever so briefly mention that the Federation would normally have a problem with Starfleet being involved in civilian matters, and then just ignore it. And I think that is a fascinating concept that they should explore more. But it also is odd if you think about it, because going back to the very beginning of Star Trek, we have had Starfleet doing diplomatic stuff that is not really the military's job.
Is Starfleet a military organization or not? That's the question.
That is also an excellent question. Yes. They will tell you no, and yet...
Yeah.
Well, I think that the correct answer is it is a quasi-military organization.
It is an
fights
organization
the battles, but...
that will serve as the military when the military is required, but is not exclusively military.
Yes.
Yeah.
The correct answer is, what does the episode need?
Yes, actually, that is the right answer.
Well, yes, but within that framework, that's the answer that I give that's consistent with what we've seen, maybe. But yes.
So this oversight committee is going to be watching to make sure that the Federation is taking care of its members. That's basically
I think so.
the goal.
So
Yes,
okay,
right.
What I was thinking about this committee, so I was trying to put some things together, and I could be way, way off track, but we haven't talked about it yet. But Tilly's leaving the show as a regular in this episode. Burnham is doing this thing that would seem to require some time away from being captain of a starship, right? So it felt to me like they're putting some pieces into place to push people in different directions, and I hope I'm wrong about this, but like by this time, I think by after the first episode of season 3, Discovery had been renewed for season 4. It has not been renewed for season 5 yet. I'm not saying that isn't going to happen, but maybe worry like they're setting things up for people to go off different directions. And I hope it's not the last season.
Interesting point, because yes, for the last several years, the new season of insert Star Trek show here has been announced within like a week or two of the first episode of the season airing, and that has not happened in this case. Yeah. I think it is entirely possible that we are winding down Discovery.
I would be really sad about that, but I was just thinking like maybe they're maneuvering Burnham towards something beyond just being captain of a starship with this committee thing or something else. I don't know, but
so my other sorry,
I was gonna say there's a lot more going on now in terms of what they're producing than a year ago, 2 years ago. So it might not.
That's true.
It might be an oversight. It might be just we're not working on this yet. So
that's true. And then, they did have to spend some time.
I'm not saying it's certainly not definitive that Discovery is ending. I'm just saying it is possible.
It was just coming into my mind because I was like, by this point. But you know what? That first week, they had to spend time cleaning up their international mess.
Yeah.
So,
just a bit.
I can't imagine them ending the show without being like, this is the final season. You better get CBS or Paramount Plus and watch the old ones.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
So okay, you've made me feel better, but we'll see.
The real question, though, is Tilly going off to the Starfleet Academy and going to not be a series regular, or is she really trying to find out who's giving information to the Kazons?
Oh my god.
You mentioned
beautiful.
So my thought on this is...
We all have the same thought.
We all have the same thought. So I'm just going to say... I'm just going to say, we are all thinking the same thing. The rumors of the Starfleet Academy show continue and have continued for years.
Yes.
And
this
Kurtzman
is the perfect
said something.
Setup for it.
Yeah, and Kurtzman said something about looking forward to it was it at Star Trek Day or something like that, right?
Yes.
So this could be a setup for a Starfleet Academy show starring Tilly.
Is going to be the star of the Starfleet Academy show that's coming. Absolutely.
That would be great. You know what? That did not occur to me at all, so I'm just going to say fantastic.
I didn't think about it until after a few days people were talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, that would make sense. So let's have that. Let's announce that show tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm surprised, honestly. I'm surprised that they haven't announced it yet, honestly, because
it's like Strange New Worlds. We all knew it was coming, but it still took them a long time to announce
it.
Yeah.
No, but this has been set up within the season, okay?
So was Georgiou's exit, but we haven't seen when she's going to come back yet, so,
There's other things that are, like, the reason why we don't have Section 31 is because the fans reacted so hard to Pike and Spock and Number 9.
Strange New Worlds took Section 31's spot in the production.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I am too.
Come on, people doing Star Trek. We don't have enough. We need more.
If they do my like weird fantasy dream about Section 31, because there was that one interview where they said it would be in a time period that you're not expecting.
Right.
So my like weird fantasy on this is that it turns out to be like this backdoor Enterprise season 5 with Malcolm Reed and.
I love it.
That would
be fantastic.
But I love
it's not going to happen, but I want it.
It's going to take place in 1966.
Yes.
Oh no, it's going to be an Assignment Earth sequel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is. So.
Oh, that would be awesome. Have Giorgio with. Anyway, sorry, we've taken you way off track. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We go along. We got the interview, so the episode's going long here. I don't know how much we want to get more into it because, I got things I want to do tonight too. What are we at here?
I think we're an hour and a half. Yeah. We've done one topic. We should probably go to the next one.
Yes. So let's keep talking about Tilly and the Cadets here. So when is their first album coming out? Tilly and the Cadets.
That would be great. Yeah.
Love it.
What does Tilly play? Or does she sing?
She's
play guitar? Okay.
She's the front person. Right.
So you're just asking what we generally think about this spot?
Yeah.
Oh, like I said,
okay.
I love it. It made me cry. It was amazing. I'll let other people say other things.
It made you cry. Yes. What part made you
cry? Her actual exit, seeing at the end when she's talking with Burnham, and the other thing was, Tilly is talking about how she felt she wanted to do a certain thing, and now her mother is all these years in the past, and that it was like the worst day of her life when she got her lieutenant pips, and she realized that, like, what am I doing this for? Do I really need to do something else? And just reflecting on, like, the journey that she's been through, going from this, cadet you're introduced to in the 3rd episode of season 1 to somebody who's been through all of this and as lieutenant and done all of these things, and the relationship she had with Burnham, and like Burnham as the mutineer, which seems like a really long time ago, right? And now she's the captain. And just like, and the other thing there where she was saying that she felt like she needed to be seen. And there's just something about that makes me very emotional when someone is talking about kind of feeling invisible and wanting to be seen. And I also saw the Ready Room with Will Wheaton this week. Did any of you guys see it?
Oh, I need to.
Yes.
No, you did that. And Will Wheaton got very emotional about that particular line and feeling like he related to it more than anything else in Star Trek. So, like, there was this whole thing about that where her exit and what she was saying about it was just making me really emotional. I love this character and was sad kind of to see her exit the show. So I seen the episode twice. It made me cry both times. So by your tone, Brandon, you seem to say, like, why did that happen? But
No, not at all. I mean, it was a good leave. I mean, it was no Tuvok dancing for Neelix, but
that one makes me cry too, equally. So,
that is an amazing scene. Yeah.
So, but I mean, it was interesting because I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how to feel about it because I'm sure we're going to see Tilly again.
Mary Wiseman has
show.
said you will see Tilly again, which I think implies at least on Discovery once before the end of the season, or maybe it's talking about Starfleet Academy. But I mean, we're going to.
No, she'll be on Discovery.
Yeah, I think you'll see her on Discovery again. But still, you're not going to see her week to week on this show, and I'm going to miss that. So
yeah.
And I will take back words that I said about 6 months ago, okay? Because you remember when they were announcing Star Trek Picard and all these things, and they said that they couldn't keep a secret if their life depended on it. I did not see
You know
this
what is funny?
reading the
I'm
show.
glad you didn't see it coming, and you didn't either, Chrissy, but I forget where it was, but there was some article or something where someone was talking about, like, something big for Tilly this week. So I actually had an idea of what it was before I saw the episode, but I don't even remember where that was. But somebody said a little something like "big week for Tilly." Like,
well, that was recent that article came out, right? Where it said,
it was just like a
this is
couple
big
days
week for
before the
Tilly.
episode. So they've.
But even that, they've kept it. Like, you know how much the Borg Queen's coming, Guinan's coming, blah blah blah. We're going to the Mirror Universe in season 1 of Star Trek Discovery.
Okay, that one is entirely Jonathan Frakes'
Yes.
Right, but I'm just saying that, like, I take back because I said they couldn't keep a secret
They
if
kept this as a
and
secret.
they did.
Yeah, for sure.
They kept this quiet, which is awesome, and I love that they did because it was a surprise.
Okay.
It was a surprise. I was at work when I saw this, and I'm like,
what?
I turned to the person next to me, and I'm like, what happened here? And there was nobody next to me because I was alone, and it was 6:00 in the morning, right? So, but anyways, I was very surprised. So.
But like, what was your reaction to it, Brandon? Like, was it just like, oh, this is happening, or did it like make you feel emotional, or?
Well, okay, so no, but okay, so. Thad, we haven't talked since, I think it was season 1 of Discovery, right, in person and whatnot, right? And I had a very heated discussion with Bill from Trek.
I remember.
My thoughts of Saru and whatnot, right? But, like, I didn't really like how they took Tilly at the end of season 1 and throughout season 2, but I loved her at the start of season 1, I loved her in season 3, and I'm loving her right now. And I didn't feel upset about it, because this felt like natural growth for her. Like it
totally feels
I understand
natural.
what you're saying.
I'm not upset at all. I'm just like, it's just the feeling of loss. Like, I'm going to miss seeing her week to week, but it's totally natural. And I love that they've set it up the last couple episodes that she's uncertain about what she wants to do. So
exactly, and they've set it up, and so I don't feel a sense of loss because I feel cathartic that she's come to this solution and found something that she wants to do. So that's where I'm coming from.
My catharsis gets converted into tears is what it is.
Yeah. She was unhappy and confused and not knowing what to do. And so now she's found what she wants to do. And you know what? It makes sense. She's been through a lot, right? She's, her being able to teach at the academy we saw last year, that scene still sticks out in my head when she's in engineering talking to people and she's like guiding people. It touches that one person on the shoulder and is like, go do this and this. And I'm like, that's leadership and whatnot. And, you know, so I love it. While I didn't like her silly line about don't eat these whatever planetary radishes or whatever it was that she said, I'm like, we just got to always throw in the silly line. But
I like it because
still
it was
love
the word
character.
rutabaga, which always makes me laugh.
Rutabaga. It's a Rigelian rutabaga.
I mean,
alliteration.
as opposed to, and I also don't like them, so I'm with her. I mean, I've never had a Rigelian one, obviously, but I don't like, you know, human earth rutabagas.
Yeah, but
anywho, so I was happy with it. It was a satisfactory conclusion. Because they built it up over enough period of time. They didn't just give us everything about Adira in one episode and then kill her. Or sorry, Ariam and then kill her.
I was going to make
Adira.
that same reference if you didn't.
yes,
They didn't do it. They didn't give us everything and then kill them. They built it up over 4 episodes and let us.
And in a way,
come
like
to terms with it.
it's building on everything that you've seen with Tilly since you first saw her in season 1. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I also think they've been, especially this season, sort of setting up Adira as more or less the same character that we've seen from Tilly.
I don't say the same, but having similar tendencies.
The same is filling the same sort of niche, I guess I should say.
The awkwardness.
Yeah, I think, it was actually, it felt a bit much, some of the scenes with Adira and Tilly together this season, I thought. So I think, but now that we know Tilly's going, it makes a lot more sense that they're sort of filling the same sort of character niche.
Yeah. The only thing we didn't get that I would have liked to have seen was, like, I know this is going to sound ridiculous, okay, but basically the end of Return of the King, where Tilly went to these people, because she's developed a lot of relationships with a lot of this crew, and the slow motion departure saying goodbye wasn't enough of a goodbye.
So you wanted 5 different endings,
seen.
Is what you're telling me.
I wanted 5 where she goes to even Stamets, like just a conversation with Stamets, because she's the one who originally approached Stamets, right, and to get him to open up and whatnot, and became friends with Stamets, even though he was so adversarial towards her. That's a relationship that's built up over 3.5 seasons. Yeah. So to not get a goodbye between the two of them, I think was a loss. Even as I've said, I haven't been enjoying the Stamets this season. I still
had no
think
lines
that
in this episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
From in-universe perspective, they are working. Their hub is Starfleet Command, where the Academy is. So if you think of it that way, it's entirely possible that they're back there once a week, twice a week. You know, so you don't have that kind of. It's not a goodbye. It's a I'll see you, every other week or something like that. And so I think if you read it that way, you don't need to have the tearful long goodbye. It's just, I'm going to be working over here.
Yeah. I could see that, but the way that I felt about it was the kind of extended scene between Tilly and Burnham was very appropriate, because they had gone from, just getting to know each other, being really awkward, to really, I felt like the best of friends over the course of the season. So I liked seeing that. And for everyone else, like, I didn't need to have like an entire scene with everyone else, especially if, she's going to be back and you'll see her later. And it's not really like, this is it, goodbye, I'm going to sacrifice myself and that's the end or something, right? Like, she's going off the ship, but like, it's not really the end. So I was kind of okay with that, because it kind of, well, maybe within the story more, it takes it back to, kind of how you first see Tilly, which I think is with a scene with Tilly and Burnham. So I don't know, it worked for me, but I could see that.
I like this because I don't know that there's anyone who has not done something out of, I don't want to say out of spite, but really it is out of spite, or to prove somebody else wrong, or any number of reasons that have nothing to do with them actually wanting to do the thing. And sometimes those are very big life decisions, like what Tilly did. and then you figure out that they're wrong. But you don't have to. It goes with the choose to live thing from last week. You don't have to wallow in the mistake, or consider even a mistake at all, really. Forget that I said mistake there. You don't have to wallow in that decision. I think that was a good thing to talk about, to present. I can't think of anywhere where we've really dealt with that in Trek before.
With what specifically?
The idea of just like, I'm going to do this thing and to hell with you, in terms of a large scale. Because basically that's what we get out of Tilly. She said to her mother, I'm going to Starfleet, to hell with what you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was good.
That specific thing, no, but we've definitely had Star Trek characters who have realized that the path that they had originally chosen is not the one they want to continue. Like
definitely.
Wesley Crusher.
Wesley,
is the answer for that.
But he didn't become a Starfleet officer out of spite.
No,
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Not just changing what you're doing in life.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I also think it's beautifully ironic that Tilly is going into academia and Stamets is staying in Starfleet. Going back to how we originally had this.
Right?
That is gorgeous.
Yeah.
So
because in season 1, Stamets was talking about how he was drafted and he hated being in Starfleet. And
Yeah, and I think toward the end of season 2, doesn't he want to, or it was somewhere in there where he actually gets a post that he's going to take.
It was at the start of season 2.
Season 2, okay, yeah.
The issues with Culber and everything.
Before Culber came back,
Right, yeah. But anyway, I think, I have to applaud them. I think it's a bold decision to do this, right? Like, I do like that Discovery has done that sometimes, like, because there has been a lot of changeover within the show. Like, if you think about, like, even the characters that have just been there since, season 1, episode 3, now it's just Burnham and Saru and Stamets. Is that right?
And Culber.
Culber wasn't there in episode 3. He came a little later.
Yeah, he was in episode 4, I think.
Okay, but he was on the ship at that time.
And he wasn't a regular that we've had since that long. It's just 3 characters. It's not like the core 7 characters that you might get like in 90s Trek.
Was
anyway,
Culber main cast in season 1? Or was he just a guest star?
He was just a guest star at first.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back.
But anyway, I just wanted to highlight, like, that's a lot of change, right? If you consider there's basically those 3 people, and also one of those 3, only 2 of them have been there since the first episode of Discovery, Saru and Burnham. That is kind of it as far as regulars, I should say.
Main cast, yes, but Detmer is also.
Yeah.
But they've gone through a lot of change, and I appreciate that, because one of the things that I really like about that is, as much as I, love Star Trek, we have these unrealistic things where for 7 years or 30 years or whatever, you have the same people back together again and again and again. And like anything that happens in our real lives, whether it's, a job or family relationships, whatever, like it's very rare for like a group of people to be together for a really, really long time.
It gets especially ridiculous by the end of the TOS movie.
Yes, it does.
The entire crew.
It's like, I love having you guys together, but like, what the hell? But I love that Discovery breaks that and has so much change. So anyway.
I was just going to say that because I had Undiscovered Country on the other day, and it's that whole, this crew is due to stand down in 3 months.
It's a great movie, but...
what
also,
part of the crew?
They're all retiring at the same time?
Right. Right. It doesn't make any... If he'd said, I'm retiring in 3 months, we're like, okay, yeah, but... Actually, that would make sense for Kirk.
They're actually all the same person. Just pieces of the same person. They're actually like a giant colony creature now.
Well, that's a whole other... Yeah, okay.
But anyway, I just like the realism, because we've all had it in our lives where like it isn't constant that you're even like working with the same people year after year after year. It just doesn't happen, So anyway.
Okay, we're almost 2 hours into this. I think we dropped the last topic. Culber did fine.
Is awesome.
Culber is a
He's
wonderful.
Awesome. Okay.
Culber did great.
Culber is a great counselor.
Culber did great.
Like,
just don't keep him near your dead family members that are.
Hey, that is a real thing, Brandon. That standing funeral is like a real Puerto Rican tradition. But
I believe
breaking their fingers a real thing too.
I guess it's possible.
I'm sure it's happened.
I enjoyed that I enjoyed how he's, opening up to Book to, like, get them on a equal footing, and I really liked how Book is like, yes, we can try something new as long as you don't break my fingers. That was great.
And Culber's like, But you know what I really like about it? Like, I love that, he is counseling Book and doing, like, a really great job at making him, realize things will never be the same. He's counseling Tilly in her direction. But one of the things that I appreciated the most was at the end of this, Book goes to Culber and says, do you have, I'm paraphrasing, but like, do you have things to work out? You want to talk about it sometime? And Culber says, sure, someday. Like, because he has his own things to work out. I just really like that.
Guy came back from the dead. That's gotta be at least a bit of an issue to work. He
probably still has some stuff to work out, but I really like that it's just addressing, like, mental health is important for everyone, even the people that are this probably especially the people counseling other people. So
yes.
Anyway, but yes, it was great, and I know we're running out of time, but it was wonderful. More right. Culber as counselor, please.
There will be
more Culber as counselor. I think we're definitely going to get.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely. I mean, we've had it like every episode this season, so I think yes, they'll continue.
I mean, and as you heard earlier in the episode, listeners, from John Ottman, who directed this episode, he got specific approval for a carpet, which was a big deal. So they got to keep using that carpet. So
yes,
for
I definitely. I didn't want to like say it while talking to him, but he's like talking about how Discovery is so cool. It's like, yes, I think the sets are beautiful. I do not like how everything is like lit with this like blue-white light, and there is no.
Interesting.
Yeah, it does seem very cold. There is no warmth to the Discovery sets.
Oh, okay.
You know why? Because we grew up with the Hilton in space. That's why.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's absolutely why. Yes, which people was all warmth.
Oh yeah, and people who started with Enterprise, they're like, Anne.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if you want cold. Deep Space Nine's a pretty cold place too, right?
It is.
Yeah, but Deep Space Nine has the promenade with all the different colors everywhere.
Yeah,
and the lights.
I could see that. But okay, all right.
Well, on that note,
excellent. Okay, so let's jump into some canon connections here.
Yes. Do you guys have any favorite ones?
I have none. I was caught up in other stuff.
I got none.
None. Okay. I just wanted to shout out to Burnham, who talks about Bajor. I'm sure that Picard would be happy about that. Maybe she heard about it in his personal files or something. Anyway, I just noticed that.
Everybody learned about the Admiral that got to go into the body like Gray, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they've got, his files and stuff. Anyway, so the planet they crash on is an L-class planet, which we've seen before, especially in DS9's The Ascent, which is such a great Odo Quark episode.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of parallels between that episode and this episode.
Yeah, and I love...
I was
really sad that Tilly wasn't slapping Adira.
While I'm watching this episode, I was thinking it's like a mashup of... Specifically the Tilly part is a mashup of Voyager's Good Shepherd, DS9's The Ascent, and TOS's The Galileo 7.
Yep.
Totally.
Yep.
It's great. It's great for that. So, hey, you've added some connections there. Let's see here. Well, USS Armstrong, maybe likely named after Neil Armstrong, and we've had...
Or Vaughn Armstrong.
Or Vaughn Armstrong, I thought about that as well. Yeah. So, let's see, what else? We talked about the NX-01 Snow Globe.
Tarina brings up the way of teaching logic to Saru. I can't remember what it's called now.
Whatever name they chose to give it to you. Apparently, in Culber's office, one of the things that's on the shelf is the medal posthumously awarded to him in season 1, which is kind of cool.
Amazing.
It's like way in the background.
I love that.
I love that too
to
because
detail.
Because of course I didn't notice, but I think Trek Corps noticed it, and it's like, oh, that is so awesome. So Stamets got it posthumously, and then when Culber came back to dead, he's like, I have this thing for you. Like, that must be an awkward scene that happened. Anyway, so it's there. Let's see. Oh, yeah, so as a follow-up from last week, we found out from Tarina that Javini gets some kind of, like, rehabilitative meditation.
I wish it had been Pajem. It was a monastery that sounded like Pajem, but was something else.
That would have been cool if it was Pajem. But I think Trek Corps was noting it's that kind of idea of the rehabilitative or punitive meditation is kind of like what happens with T'Lyn on Lower Decks, so which is kind of fun. Let's see what else. At one point, like over the speakers in the shuttle bay, they're calling for a Cadet Cho. It made me think of John Cho, who plays the Kelvin Sulu. I don't know if it's after that, but anyway. I noticed that. So I think there's probably some other stuff, but that's about it.
Excellent.
It was fun. Good stuff.
Thad, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Please tell our listeners where they can find you when you're not putting your thighs all up on me.
Well, but I always am, Brandon. So
Brandon,
that's what I like.
when can we have the fan art of this like limo thing that happens?
But
anytime, I'll post.
Who else was in
the best place to find me is on Twitter. I tweet about Star Trek all the time. I'm currently doing a truly insane alphabetical rewatch of Star Trek.
That is the definition of insanity, and
I am in the letter B at the moment.
That is
lunatic.
so like what is that even like? You're just flipping between
Honestly,
all kinds
it's
of weird
a lot
episodes.
of fun.
Yeah,
it's because it's refreshing. You never get more than like 3 episodes of any given show at a time.
Yeah.
So it's like it keeps it all fresh.
but aren't there some like DS9 like 2 or 3 parters where you have to go like way down the
alphabet? Don't do this
alphabet?
if you're a first timer. That's a bad idea. There's a lot of episodes. Like for instance, I have so far seen from Enterprise. I have seen the Anar and Babel 1, but I won't see United until like next year sometime.
Like 700 episodes later. Yeah,
Right.
Well, you'll see United right after you see Unification 1, Unification 2,
Yeah,
and
see,
Unification
in
3.
that case, it falls in pretty well, yeah.
Yes.
but
Anyway, the best
funny.
place to find me is on Twitter. I'm at Tyrannicus, which is TYRANICUS.
okay.
Excellent, right on. Excellent. Chrissie, where can people find you when you're not suddenly deciding to leave our show and go teach students?
Oh, say it ain't so, Chrissy.
That's just Monday.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, that's
doesn't
just
she
Monday.
already do that?
No. That's not what. The equivalent would be if Chrissy were to go off and teach podcasting instead of doing this podcast. So
There you go. There you go.
Not
And that
doing
is
that.
not something I teach. So yeah.
wow,
Not yet.
not yet. You could. I mean, you could teach podcast editing by this point.
Yeah.
But please
As
stay.
part of history. I don't know where to go with that. Right. In addition to here on Infinite Diversity, you can find me on History with the Szilagys here on the UFP network that I do with my fellow historian partner Jason. And I am happy to chat about our shows in the Federation Council Chambers on Facebook. Sometimes belatedly, I know that. Apologies, but I will get to it. And I'm also on Twitter at the Goddess Livia. That's TheGoddessLivia, where I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics.
3 of my
Excellent.
favorite things.
They are some of the best things in life.
Justin, where can people find you when you're not sending me secret messages to come and save your political, intriguing, failing miserably negotiations because people are telling you that they have to make you do things that you don't want to do?
You know what?
Wow, that was
that
long.
took so long that my worm has finished gestating. So,
Oh, nice.
Good.
all right. Well,
You can go poop it out.
oh,
You can go poop it out.
sorry. Thad's going to be like, I'm never coming on with these guys again. This is disgusting.
No, this has been a lot of fun.
Okay, good. Well, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek. And you can find me on Facebook and the Federation Council Chambers, our group where we talk about all kinds of UFP episodes like this one. Hope you'll join us there.
Excellent, right on. And as for me, you can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. I have been back dipping my fingers into the
Amazing.
social media
I have
pie.
to ask, though, why are you back? It seemed
Yeah.
like you'd never come back. You missed us?
My wife kept like sending me stuff anyways, and I'm going on there, and I saw a few things, and I'm like, the books were wrapping up, and so I made a few posts on the Coda trilogy. And, you know, then I'm just like, fine. And then I'm sitting here uploading something, and I look up at my Star Trek Deep Space Nine action figures that I have in the box up here, and I'm like, that's funny that Morin has a action figure. So I tweeted out, remember when Morin has an action figure? And it got like 1,500 likes and whatnot. I'm like, I don't understand social media, man. Like,
It's
what
great.
the heck?
No,
People
my
love
weirdest tweets are always my most successful. Like, my
Always.
random, like, offhand thoughts are always the ones that, like, go crazy.
No.
I know, and I think I come up with amazing. You know what? There's a Twitter page with like 131,000 followers, and all it is a weekly tweet of that 15-second clip from Toy Story 2, where the guy's like, I got to go to work on a Saturday, all the way to work. That's all it
Every
is.
week.
Every tweet. That's the name of the Twitter handle. And it's just a 15-second clip, and he posts it every Saturday, and it's got like 131,000
There's another one
followers.
that tweets a clip from Saturday Night Live when Daniel Craig was hosting the Ladies and Gentlemen, The Weekend. It tweets it every Friday afternoon.
I had to block that one.
Have you seen?
I was tired of seeing it.
Have you seen the same photo of Chief O'Brien every day on
I
Facebook?
have seen
Oh,
that.
yeah. I like how
Love
they do a
that.
different caption every time. That's the
Yeah,
best
At least,
part.
there's at least some work involved with a different caption. But anyway,
Yeah.
welcome back, Brandon. We missed you.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, be careful, Justin, or I'm gone again. It'll be your fault.
It's never my fault.
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Rotella. You can find me here on the network with another show called Franchise Fatigue, which is all about movies, remakes, and sequels. And you can find me over on the Fandom Podcast Network, as well as in our own feed with a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, where we talk all about Hitchcock's work. Here on the network, we've got a few other shows. We have Amy Nelson and Mark White are hosting All Good Things, which is all Star Trek all the time. Join hosts Rhea Papageorgiou, Kevin Scharf, Amy Nelson, and Joe Keegan discussing all TNG all the time aboard Galaxy Class. Always hold on to Arrow. Cavante Chillis and Lance Lasser discussing all things that make Arrow Arrow. And Ken Tripp and Zach Moore have a monthly podcast called Sasquatch, discussing all the fun things about the cultural phenomenon of Bigfoot. Thank you very much for tuning in to Infinite Diversity. Thank you to our executive producers, Ken Tripp, Tony Robinson, and Zach Moore. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music and Tony Robinson for the awesome show art. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and please subscribe. If you want to reach out, you can find the network on Twitter at UFP Earth, or our show specifically at IDIC Podcast. You can also talk about any and all of the UFP podcasts in our Facebook group called the Federation Council Chambers. Or you can email us at infinitediversity@ufp.earth. On the next episode, we'll be talking about the entire Star Trek Coda trilogy with all three authors.
Yeah.
Dayton Ward, David Mack, and James Swallow. It is awesome. You know what, guys? Because we've already recorded.
we know
it.
it's
a great
awesome.
I'm looking forward to
conversation.
that one.
It's
so
great.
I cried. I felt.
Although I
felt
still
it
haven't
and I
read the
cried.
third Coda book. I've read like 2 chapters. It and the Final Expanse book came out on the same day, which is like really throwing me
Dude,
off.
priority.
Yeah, I mean,
Really?
does Star Trek
Expanse
take
over
priority?
Star Trek?
Don't-
What's wrong with you, man? Why are you even on
Yeah,
this show?
don't listen to this before you finished it if you're worried about spoilers.
I
You know
will
what?
not.
That just
Yeah.
just for that, you're gonna get a spoiler. Everybody dies.
Yeah, I figured that.
Okay.
Yes, but it's how it happens.
Yeah, exactly. That is not even really a spoiler.
Yeah.
It's not. But anyway, that'll be awesome.
Yes. Until then, peace and long life.
Yes.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.